Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Parks and Rec board meeting. We have a quick docket, and we have some important items to cover, so we'll start with the first order of business, which is approval of minutes from our meeting on February 9th. Is there, I assume everybody's had a chance to review those, and is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, there goes. Minutes are accepted. Resolution number 30577.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a consideration license and facility use agreement. It's our annual agreement with the Brookside Business Association for the Brookside Art Fair, which past years always occurs right around the tail end of April, first part of May. 3-day event. As you can see, there's compensation for those 3 days. And Terrence is not with us right now. He's at a meeting downtown. I know, is Sean here? I don't know if Sean Ackerson was going to attend. Anyway, we recommend approval. We've had, like I said, a long-standing relationship with this organization.
Okay. Are there any questions? Glad to see that they're still doing this.
Yeah, it's a great event.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to go to.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Resolution number 30578.
Yes, Commissioner, this is another long-standing relationship with the City of Fountains Foundation. This is Amendment 4 to assist with some public funding to go with all the private funding for the William Volker Fountain, which is wrapping up or getting close to completion. Would recommend approval. I would defer to Travis if you have any questions related to the scope of work involved.
Any questions of Travis? All right, we're going to let Travis off the hook easy. Very good. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 30579.
Yes, Commissioners, citywide improvements. This is a bid award. As you can see, a lot of the work is for the basketball courts up here at Southeast.
Yep.
Again, you have a memo from Travis that outlines that, plus a few other locations. Recommend approval to Blue Moon Hauling. Again, if you have any questions, Travis is here to answer those.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Yes, sir.
I would ask, what was the alternative for that there was a no bid on for the one we awarded?
Catch that.
I'm sorry, Commissioners, I do not have that listed here, because we didn't receive a bid on the awarded bid on that, so I don't have that included in here. I can find that out and get that information to you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You get an extra cookie when we get back into the other room
Okay.
for asking a question that Travis didn't have an answer to. That's a rare occurrence.
That's one in a row,
That
I'll
is
tell
a
you.
rare occurrence, is what that is. All right. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion is second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. On to the director's report.
Okay, Travis, you can jump back up. All yours.
Just wanted to see how much sweat could be generated in the hot news. Good afternoon, Commissioners.
See, I'm unpredictable.
Got got an update on the Miliazo Park. Some of you met with us last fall out there when we walked the site with then Councilman John Sharp and about the trail, and since then Erica Fladd, project manager, has worked on the trail on this with actually National Streetscape, and wrapped up the work out there last December. And you can see some of the improvements that were made. If you recall, we had realigned that trail, moved it back from the homes a little bit, widened it. It was about 5 foot wide, now it's about a 7 foot wide asphalt trail out there. Added benches, exercise equipment, play equipment, toddler swings, and the next, we have bids coming in on the next portion of that work. I believe on Wednesday, and that's for work along the dam and the
Yeah.
walkway. So that'll be the next phase out there.
Good deal. I like these stone tables. It's nice. Looks still historic and
Yeah, it looks like old Kansas City.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah,
nice.
I like it. Yeah, they.
And people, you would
Stay
not
on
be,
forever.
or maybe you would be surprised, the little toddler swings, the bucket seats, that's a big deal to people that have little turkeys that can't swing on big swings. So, thank you.
Very
Looks good.
Thank you.
Some little turkey.
Heidi, marketing report, please.
Great.
That looks still okay.
Just one more, I'm gonna have
Okay.
to share. Yes, I have a first draft of the year in review for 2015 that will be finalized and completed and up on the website next week, and then go to the printer for print, as will the program guide as well. So I've been talking about it for a while. It's actually coming to fruition. You'll see in the year in review that we kind of talk about all the projects that we completed, the events that we did, the awards that we won, and then maybe focused on like 6 major projects that we completed throughout the year. And those are the Rose Garden, 14-year project finally completed in 2015, the Skywalk Memorial, and the Firefighters Memorial. We did a bit on Cycle in the City, which I think unfortunately was probably just going to be a one-off, but maybe we'll get some funding and get to do it again. The Healthy Foods Program in the community centers, 20th anniversary of the Children's Fountain, and then the reopening of Cliff Drive. So you'll see that, and then Mark's letter kind of talks about everything that happened throughout the year, but it's a nice little piece that will summarizes exactly what we accomplished in 2015, and it's always impressive and surprising to see how much that we do get done. Thank you, because we tend to just kind of get it done and move on and then forget about it. So we had our we had our Love Locks Valentine's Day on the Red Bridge, and had a good turnout to that. And it's been a couple of years since I actually went, and we had a lot of media attention around that as well. Been a couple of years since I actually had counted the locks and figured there was about 600 or 800 out there. And so I went out and counted them, and was really surprised as to how many were out there. And so I wanted to know if any of you happened to see my social media posts that I did on this. And you can tell me how many locks are on the bridge.
I don't know.
I can tell you.
Mark can tell me, yay, he
But I'm not
follows
gonna answer
us.
it, 'cause I already know.
I usually see those, but I did not see that.
Yeah, it was surprising, we have 2,223. Yeah, with lots of room still to go. But I was really surprised, and we did a little contest on social media-wise and gave away 2 passes to the Minor Park Golf Course to the person who guessed the closest, which was about 1,900. So, and then we also have completed our annual survey of KC Parks users, and we had 563 people complete the survey, which is very good. And we're going to go ahead and analyze them and then compare them to the past couple of years, and we'll hand the results over to you probably at the next board meeting. Otherwise, just working on all the events that we have coming up, and they're coming right up, starting with the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and then, of course, we've talked about the Go Ape opening, Fountain Day, which
Right.
we may be able to hold at
Well,
Volker Fountain.
we're down to a choice between 2 fountains.
Volker Children's.
Yeah, and it's all about timing and completing construction.
Okay.
So it'll be one of the 2.
And then we just move right along. There is a new event to add to your calendar here, which is the opening of the Tom Watson Golf Academy,
Oh, yeah.
or the Heart America Golf Course, and that is going to also be on April 30th, because we only have 2 other things going on that day.
Yeah, that's, yes, exactly. And then would you mention the one about the Big 12 basketball courts, too? You know, you just.
Yeah, that's on March the 9th,
Right.
and
That's
so
still.
far.
Yeah,
it's
a little
at-
bit of detail and tell.
At Parade Park?
Yeah, Parade Park. And this is the basketball courts that are being relocated over at Parade Park related to the Urban Youth Academy, which of course is a baseball project. The Big 12 has a legacy fund, so as they kick off the Big 12 basketball tournament here in town, the Big 12 is going to help to pay for the relocation of those basketball courts. So Bob Bowlesby, I believe, is the chairman of the, or
Big
the
12.
commissioner,
Commissioner.
will be in town, and he's part of that.
Sports commissions.
Sports Commission is kind of coordinating that, so.
And then also had a meeting with the school district this morning
Yeah.
about the athletic fields at Central Park that are being PIAC funded, mostly because 325 students signed a petition to make it happen. So that go to the school. So that's kind of exciting. We'll do an opening at the end of April for that, or a check presentation actually is what it will be from PIAC. And that's all I have right now.
Cool. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes the director's report. We're going to go to public hearing. First on is John DeCapo.
Hello.
Well, I'm John DeCapo. I think that I sent the commissioners a letter. I hope everyone received it. I'm here because I represent a couple of 100 people so far who have signed a petition to see if we can get the Rock Fest moved from the sacred grounds of the Liberty Memorial, which we live across the street from, to a more user-friendly location. And I don't know if anybody's been to the Rock Fest, but it's getting kind of crazy with the development that's going on in the Crown Center, Union Hill, downtown, Crossroads area. That area is getting built up pretty good with residences and businesses. I'm an old rock and roll guy, so I'm not against the Rock Fest per se. I think it's a good event. I think that the Rock Fest should continue. I think it should continue someplace other than where it is, because it does bring people in from other states and outside the area, brings in tax dollars. They spend money in the hotels. They spend money in restaurants. I'm sure they buy a lot of alcohol and whatever. And I'm not against it. I just think that it belongs someplace other than where it currently is. You know, I was trying to think of some of the pros of having Rock Fest at Penn Valley Park and the grounds of the Liberty Memorial. And really, the only thing that I could come up with on a positive is that it makes money for the Parks Department, for the Liberty Memorial, and for AEG and the vendors that participate in the event. I don't really see any other positives for it being in its current location. It's kind of landlocked, the way it's set up, where I don't know how much bigger they could get that area without moving into the front of the grounds of the Liberty Memorial. And I think that there's probably in the city of Kansas City, Missouri, in your parks, in our parks, there's probably a better location that they could relocate to have more space, to maybe make it a larger event, maybe a two-day event, and even add some camping or whatever, like Burning Man or Coachella or one of these big major rock events. You know, as a resident of Crown Center, and we've been there 30 years, we've seen this Rock Fest and all the festivals really get bigger. You know, the orchestra, when they do the Memorial Day event, it's a great event, and they do it in conjunction with the station, and that's a great event, but it's a family event. And the Rock Fest is not a family event. The Rock Fest brings in an element into the Crown Center downtown area that we really don't want there. And it's not anything personal. It's just that the music is really loud and it lasts all day long. And we're right across the street. like from here to the street there. That's how close we are. And there's a lot of vulgarity, and the amount, the decibel of the music, and the amount of marijuana smoke that you smell. It's just not something that a progressive city of Kansas City is. I don't think it's conducive for what we're trying to do in the Crown Center area. 2 out of the last 6 or 8 years, we've had some rainstorms and bad inclement weather during the Rock Fest. And Mark will tell you, I'm sure you all know how much damage that it does to the park. It does a tremendous amount of damage. Matter of fact, the park is not back to the way it was this year from the Rock Fest of last year. There's still some areas of the park that haven't been brought back to their original form. And we don't think that just by AEG writing a check and going in, putting in new sod or new concrete curbs is something that needs to happen on an annual basis. And it happens on an annual basis. Even when we don't have storms, they tear it up pretty good. And of course, they write a check. Everybody gets a check. So, I mean, when you do 2 million or whatever they take in, they're able to write a lot of checks. And that's great for the people getting the checks. It doesn't do anything for us who live across the street, who have to put up with this hassle. You know, it actually, the traffic pattern, it messes the traffic pattern up for not only the day of the event, but they start a couple of weeks ahead of time, putting up stages and blocking streets. The people that go to the dog park, that are my neighbors that go to the dog park aren't able to get to the dog park because they close some of the streets. And I just don't think that that's a good idea, to close the streets a couple of weeks before, and also for a week or two, depending on the weather, after. It's just not something that we think should happen in our area. You know, I've had some veterans, I own a small business down on 19th Street, and I've had some veterans that have come through, and I have my little petition there out in front, and the veterans, I asked them about it, and I haven't had one veteran agree that it's a good place to have a rock festival on the sacred grounds of the Liberty Memorial. As you all know, the Liberty Memorial has become one of the fifth, it is the fifth most popular museums in the United States. That just recently came out this year. And I don't know if you know, but the Liberty Memorial closes down for the weekend of the Rock Fest. So people who would be traveling from Europe or all over the United States to come to the Liberty Memorial are unable to visit the memorial during that weekend because of a rock festival. And I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's right, even though they get 60 grand for closing down. I think that they'd be better served to keep it open and move the rock festival to a different location. Crown Center's becoming more kid-friendly, and I don't know if anybody has kids or comes to Crown Center, but they've just put in a couple of new exhibits in the last few years, one being the aquarium and the other being the Legoland. So we get a lot of kids during the weekend that come down there, and during that weekend, the kids are exposed to marijuana smoke, drinking, just a lot of things that we don't want our kids exposed to. And we think if it was someplace else, it'd be better. We just don't think that as it's grown in popularity, we really think it's outgrown its location. I had made a recommendation that we might think of Berkeley Park And we were in a meeting, Mark came to a meeting at the Liberty Memorial, and the Port Authority came down and said it was too small. And so I definitely, you know, I mean, I'm an agreeable person if you can give me some facts. So, you know, we understand that maybe that's not a good spot. Have a great spot across the street with Swope Park. We think it's, that'd be a great spot for the Rockfest to move. I don't think it would affect the city the way it currently affects the city now. A couple of things I just want to, and I'm going to almost done, but I want to just read a couple of comments from people who have logged on to our, bless you,
Thanks.
to our site. From blocking access to parking for a mile around community sports fields, the Liberty Memorial and the Penn Valley Dog Park, to destroying the grass of the park itself and ruining a beautiful area for residents, Rockfest should be moved to a less vital populated area of the city, one person said. Another person said the site is occupied by Rockfest staff and vendors for about a week and a half. Numerous roads in the park and parking spaces are blocked off. Folks involved in the dog park, folks park in the dog park lot, and they often illegally parked, making almost impossible for dog park users to attend for several days. People cutting through the park often leave gates open, throw all sorts of trash on the ground where dogs can get at it and where people have to dispose of other trash to protect their dogs and kids because the available cans are insufficient for the crowd. The one porta potty by the dog park gets disgustingly full, not emptied in a timely manner. The city has literally thousands of park acres more appropriate for the size of Rockfest as it has evolved. We, the group, which is 200 strong right now, and it's getting stronger, and we're going to build up more momentum because once people find out that the possibility of working, and we want to work with AEG. I mean, we don't want to not have a Rockfest. I mean, we think Rockfest is, like I said, it's good for our city, but I think we need to move it. And I think we need to look at AEG, talk to AEG about trying to find an alternative location, because where it is right now, I think it's detrimental to our community, and I think it's detrimental to our city.
Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Comments?
No, I think at this time, I think you've been working with staff on some stuff, and I think we're continuing to.
I've talked to Mark, and
Yeah.
I've talked to AEG, and I've talked to the Liberty Memorial Board, and everybody thinks it's hunky-dory, I think, except for us. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to change it, but I think we need to, I think you commissioners, I think you ought to look into the possibility of talking to them about moving it and looking at some options.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, there's a sign right on Main Street that's there, it says there's a noise ordinance. And if you drive down Main Street, there's a sign that says there's a noise ordinance. So how can there be a noise ordinance and then have a rock festival across the street? I mean, none of that makes any sense to me. And then people park on my dad's street, and they charge $10 or $15 to park on Main Street. They close it down during that day, and it doesn't, you know, it's just outgrown its location.
Sure.
And it needs to be at a bigger location. It's disturbing the residents, disturbing the commercial business. It's just, the time is now. You've got an opportunity to talk to AEG, to allow them to try to find a new location for 2017, so that in 2016, when the people come in May, they can say, hey, we're going to Swope Park to a bigger, better place next year. So we understand that 16 sign, but we just don't want you to sign 17. So I'd be happy to work with anybody. I can give you as much information
Sure.
as I can, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to work with
Well, we
you.
appreciate that. And thank you for bringing the concern.
Thank
and
you.
We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks, John.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, next is John
is it T. Sarden? Is that? Tea Garden, okay, just, all right, just. No, not a problem, I was just, my apologies there.
I'm John Teagarden, and I'm here with Tom and Andy, and we're with the local wheelchair softball team. I know you all knew we had a local wheelchair softball team, the Kansas Diamond. And we're here about the adaptive field project. Just ask some questions about that. That was brought up about, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. And in that 4 or 5 years, adaptive athletics has really grown. The National Wheelchair Softball Association, of the NWSA, has grown to 30 teams. They're actually adding, the NWSA governs wheelchair softball, not only across the country, but across the world. So they have 30 teams across the world. They're growing again this year, adding more teams. They, last year, in their World Series, they had a record 16 teams participate. One of those teams was from Japan. It's the 3rd year in a row Japan has shown up has participated in the wheelchair softball tournament. This year, for the first time in the 40-year history of the NWSA, they are bringing 15 players from across the country to form a Team USA. I personally have been honored to be selected for that team, and we're going to go over to Japan's national tournament and play. So it's growing. Adaptive athletics is really growing. Here locally, and what we're concerned with most of all is how is it growing here? Well, we have added, in the last couple of years, we've added a quad rugby team. If anyone's done quad rugby or seen the movie Murder Ball, it's wheelchair rugby. So that team is just growing and growing. We have added a second wheelchair basketball team right here in Kansas City. Last night's practice, we had a record 12 players show up, and that's our second team. Our first team had a record 14 show up the week before. So there's a lot more interest in wheelchair athletics. Coming to softball, our season's starting up pretty soon. I have record numbers asking me about softball. Currently, we don't have a place to practice. The closest place actually is Topeka, Kansas. That's a very long drive for a lot of us. So we're here today asking about the project for the adaptive fields, where we are with the project, what we can do as players to help move this project along. We want to be a part of this process and help get these fields built, help raise the necessary money that needs to be raised. So I guess we're asking,
Sure.
Where's the project? What can we do to help? And when do we think we can get this project done?
Okay.
I can answer, as you know.
And this actually came up, let me just say, I'm sorry, Mark, we actually, about 2 weeks ago, we were asking a very similar question, wanted to know the status of this, so it's timely that you're here, because we were asking very similar
Oh,
questions
okay.
ourselves, so, and Mark has a.
Well,
has an
I
update.
can give you a little update, and Travis might want to jump in here too. Travis is our project manager. Do you know Travis Kiefer?
No.
The board entered into an agreement with the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation, as you're probably aware of that, in the past. And there's been some PIAC money, which is city sales tax, set aside. The Cal Ripken Foundation has set aside some funds. And then the agreement kind of lays out the process to follow, go forward. And there's been some private funds that have been contributed, but there's still a gap for more private funds. One thing we just discovered here relatively recent is, remind me of the gentleman's name that is the new project manager, Travis?
Chuck?
Chuck, okay. So we just started communicating with him. A guy named Bobby McCaffrey was the former project manager. So we're just starting to, communicate with him and get some feedback from him. He shared some information with us, I think, relatively recent. And so, yeah, we need some help, no question about it.
Okay.
And it's all about securing the resources to make it happen.
Okay.
And I don't know, you want to add anything to that, Travis?
Yeah, just a couple of ones, you talking about a time frame. I think the agreement that we had with Cal Ripken Foundation, we had some deadlines specified in there as far as fundraising, to have the fundraising completed by the end of 2016 in order to have the fields constructed by the summer of 2017. So that's about as much as we have at this point on timeframes or timelines for the project, so.
So, we got all your contact information? Jennifer probably does, don't you?
Yeah.
You're part of this team, Jennifer.
Right on.
You're gonna help us, right?
We're ready to go.
Yeah, and we're willing to go out and, knock on doors, whatever we need to do. Or even if you just need us to show up to be a face of the program, but we're
Yes.
willing to go out and do that. Because it's, it's a fantastic project, and, the
We
need
agree.
is so great right now.
Yeah.
And timing is so perfect.
Well, we're committed to making sure that this gets done per the timeline that Travis, and if there's something that we can do to expedite it, we'd be happy to. We're working off of that in conjunction with the folks at Cal Ripken Foundation as well to kind of get this done. So we appreciate you coming out, and don't worry, we will definitely take advantage of the opportunity to work with you and the others here in the room today to help us out. Yes?
Is there anything that you guys have come up that we can probably, especially in the summertime, come out and bring a few guys out and like do demos or bring extra chairs out and play a game, set up somewhere, like at a festival that had a good sized parking lot area that we can use, we can set up and just kind of demonstrate it and have it out there for people to try, so we can show it up. And
Yeah, so why not? The key to that is getting folks to attend that could see the value and purpose in what we're trying to accomplish, that would be willing to, quite frankly, write a check. And that's what that's all about, and matter of coordinating something like that. And we're hoping to get some more feedback from the Calvin Foundation about potential contributors, primarily from outside Kansas City. We know some of the Kansas City folks, but not so much outside Kansas City. And that's where we're hoping to get some more from them on that. So, yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Yep. There may be that and other things, so we appreciate the willingness, so thank you for the time. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and congrats on all the success of the expansion of all the programs
Yeah.
and stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, congrats on being selected to the
Yeah.
team, too.
Yeah, that's
Best
great.
of luck, yeah.
That's great.
Okay. We have a calendar review?
Yes, we sure do. Well, we're going to enter the month of March here pretty quick. We wrap up this month. I think nothing else on February. No board meeting on the first. Next meeting we have is on the 8th. There is a City of Fountains Foundation board meeting on the 2nd. Casey Cash is in the room briefly. You might have seen him come
I
in.
saw Casey come in,
Yeah,
yeah.
Casey was here on behalf of the City of Fountains Foundation for that amendment for their organization for the Volker Fountain, and so I said, well, you can stay, and we already got approved, so he said, thank you very much. He appreciates it. So, now I said, get the thing done, so we can finish it. So anyway, their meeting's coming up on the 2nd, and then we've got a couple other meetings there with the Clay Platte Park Partners and Memorial on the 9th. And, anyway, that kind of gets us into the month of March, and then a lot of other calendar items that Heidi made reference to earlier, and then Carmen, we talked earlier about the board in front of the city council on the 3rd of March, that's coming up. And the 9th, I think, was their date that we mentioned. I'll mention something else that folks may or may not be aware of. And we became aware of this because Jeff Simon, I'm not sure. who all
Yeah, I know
knows
Jeff.
Know Jeff, over at Hush Blackwell Law Firm, reached out to us and asked for file information relating the desegregation of the Swope Park pool that occurred back in the 50s. And there's a presentation this Thursday evening at the Plaza branch of the Kansas City Library that talks about that. The son of Thurgood Marshall Jr., who was involved in that at the time back in the 50s, will be there along with Alvin Brooks. And it's going to be narrated by Steve Kraske from KCUR. And so Jeff was doing the background on this and gathering information. So we provided him information from our archives. And then we also were contacted by a lady from KCUR radio that called Carmen. We sent her some information. So they're putting this program together. And of course, it happened here in Swope Park back
So is
in-
it sponsored by KCUR then?
It's sponsored by KCUR. Exactly right. Well, and I guess the Kansas City Library also.
Okay.
It shows up on their, notice of, because they do it in that plaza, that lower level
Yeah.
down there, if you've been to a presentation.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's where it's at. Apparently, it's already capacity as far as filling the the seats, but there is a video stream on it too.
Cool.
And so anyway, that's kind of how we got involved, primarily because of Jeff Simon. And I know Hush Blackwell's in that same building, if I'm
Yep.
not mistaken, so anyway, be aware of that. So I'll mention it as well.
I see that.
Sure, yeah.
Great. Anything else?
Just one other quick item.
It's this Thursday.
We had a presentation back sometime, I think, last fall from Catherine Frederick and Karen Christensen from the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art. And they were talking about their big cultural plan. They did this planning, and I think Vicki Notice was here, maybe Lori Bowman at the same time. They had looked at, reaching out to the cultural plan. And this is, if you remember, there was a plan done by Weiss Manfredi, which is the large planning firm out of the East Coast, looking at what was going to happen around the Nelson. And they also looked at master planning back toward the plaza and then on out east to King Square and on further out, and then over in the UMKC campus. So they went through the whole planning exercise, and that's what was presented to the board last fall. Now they're working on some a bit more focus planning associated with their property, and also looking at the Tice Mall and the park just to the west, which is Southmoreland Park. So we're working with them on an MOU. Details to follow, and we'll probably have them here sometime in March. We'll talk more about that in detail. And that's Karen, who I believe is the chief operating officer, and then Julian, who is, of course, the director over there. So anyway, that's something coming up in the month of March. And
Yeah, I think that would be
That's,
a good venue for them.
that's it.
Cool.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, anything else? All right, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.